There's something unsettling about feeling trapped, that heavy weight in your chest when you wake up and realize you're going through the same motions again. Same job that drains you, same relationships that leave you empty, same patterns that keep repeating no matter how hard you try to break free. You tell yourself this is just temporary, that things will change, that you'll figure it out. But weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and you're still here, still stuck. But what if I told you that what you're calling being stuck is actually something completely different? What if that feeling of being trapped, that sense of going nowhere, that frustration with your current reality isn't a sign that you're failing, but a signal that you're being moved towards something better? Most people never realize this because they're too busy fighting against the discomfort instead of listening to what it's trying to tell them. They treat every closed door like a personal attack, every setback like evidence that they're not good enough, every period of uncertainty like proof that they're lost. But the truth is, life doesn't trap you. Life redirects you. And there's a massive difference between the two. Think about it. When you're driving and you hit construction, you don't sit there and curse the universe for putting obstacles in your path. You take the detour. You trust that even though this isn't the route you planned, it's still going to get you where you need to go. Sometimes it even shows you something beautiful you never would have seen on the original path. Life works the same way. Those moments when nothing seems to be working, when every door slams shut, when you feel like you're moving backward instead of forward, that's not life punishing you. That's life protecting you from paths that would have led you nowhere and guiding you towards something that actually fits who you're becoming. But here's where most people get it wrong. They think being redirected means they're doing something wrong. They think it's their fault. They think they should have seen it coming, should have been smarter, should have made better choices. So they sit in that discomfort and turn it into self-blame instead of recognizing it for what it really is, a course correction. The problem is we've been taught to fear uncertainty. We've been conditioned to believe that not knowing what comes next is a weakness, that having a clear plan is the only way to succeed, that being in control of every outcome is what separates winners from losers. But life doesn't care about your 5-year plan. Life doesn't operate on your timeline. And the more you try to force your way through doors that are clearly meant to stay closed, the more exhausted you become. I've watched people spend years, sometimes decades, trying to resurrect dead relationships, forcing careers that never felt right, clinging to versions of themselves that stopped serving them long ago, all because they confused being stuck with being patient, all because they thought giving up meant failing, instead of recognizing that sometimes letting go is the most intelligent thing you can do. Here's what nobody tells you about those periods when everything feels stagnant. Your soul knows before your mind does. Your intuition picks up on misalignments long before your logic catches up. That restlessness you feel, that nagging sense that something isn't right, that growing dissatisfaction with things that used to make you happy, those aren't signs that you're broken. Those are signs that you're outgrowing your current situation. But instead of trusting this inner wisdom, we fight against it. We try to talk ourselves out of what we're feeling. We make lists of all the reasons we should be grateful, all the reasons we should stay, all the reasons this should be enough. And while gratitude is important, using it to silence your authentic feelings is just another form of self-abandonment. The truth is, you can be grateful for where you are and still know it's time to move on. You can appreciate what something taught you while acknowledging that the lesson is complete. You can honor what was without forcing it to be what is. Growth requires this kind of honest assessment. It demands that you stop pretending comfort is the same thing as contentment. Most people mistake comfort for happiness because comfort is familiar. It's predictable. It doesn't ask anything of you, except that you stay the same. But happiness, real happiness, requires you to keep evolving. It asks you to stay curious about who you're becoming, instead of clinging to who you've always been. And that process is rarely comfortable. This is why being redirected can feel so disorienting. You thought you knew who you were, what you wanted, where you were heading. Then life starts closing doors, shifting circumstances, changing the rules of the game. Suddenly, nothing feels certain anymore. The future you planned starts crumbling, and you're left standing in the debris wondering what went wrong. But what if nothing went wrong? What if everything is going exactly as it should? What if those closed doors aren't rejections, but protections? What if that job you didn't get, that relationship that ended, that opportunity that fell through, what if all of it was life saying, "Not this, something better is coming"? I know it's hard to believe when you're in the middle of it, when you're watching your carefully constructed plans fall apart, when you're dealing with the judgment of people who don't understand why you're not satisfied with good enough anymore, when you're facing the unknown with no guarantee of what's waiting on the other side. It's terrifying to trust a process you can't see, to have faith in a direction you can't predict. But here's what I've learned from watching people navigate these transitions, from my own experience of being redirected more times than I can count. The people who thrive during uncertain periods aren't the ones who have it all figured out. They're the ones who've learned to read the signs. They've learned to distinguish between temporary discomfort and permanent misalignment. They've learned to trust their inner compass even when it's pointing them toward uncharted territory. These people understand something that most others don't. Being redirected isn't a detour from your path. It is your path. Those unexpected turns, those sudden stops, those moments when you have to completely recalibrate your direction, they're not interruptions to your story. They are your story. They're the plot twists that transform you from who you were into who you're meant to become. But you have to be willing to see them that way. You have to stop treating every change like a crisis and start recognizing it as an invitation to explore parts of yourself you never knew existed, an invitation to discover strengths you never knew you had, an invitation to create a life that actually reflects who you are now, not who you were 5 years ago. The question isn't whether you're going to be redirected. Life will redirect you whether you're ready or not. The question is whether you're going to fight against it or flow with it, whether you're going to waste energy trying to force doors that are meant to stay closed, or use that energy to find the doors that are meant to open for you. Because here's the thing about being redirected. It's not random. It's not cruel. It's not punishment for past mistakes or evidence of personal failure. It's life responding to who you're becoming and creating space for that person to emerge. It's the universe saying, the version of you that got you this far isn't the version of you that's going to take you where you're meant to go. And that's not something to fear. That's something to celebrate. So if you're sitting there right now feeling like you're in limbo, like you're waiting for permission to move, like you're trapped between who you were and who you're becoming, I want you to consider this. What if the waiting is part of the process? What if the uncertainty isn't a sign that you're lost, but evidence that you're exactly where you need to be? Because transformation doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in neat, predictable stages with clear timelines and guaranteed outcomes. It happens in the messy middle, in the space between what was and what's coming, in those moments when you feel like you're dissolving before you figured out how to reconstruct yourself. And that's terrifying for most people because we've been taught that not knowing means not succeeding. We've been conditioned to believe that confidence means having all the answers, that strength means never wavering, that growth means always moving forward in a straight line. But real growth is a circular spiral. Sometimes it looks like you're going backward when you're actually going deeper. The people who understand this, who've learned to trust the redirection process, they've discovered something profound. They've learned that you don't have to know where you're going to take the next step. You don't have to see the whole staircase to climb the first step. You just have to be willing to move when movement is called for, and be still when stillness is required. This requires a different kind of intelligence than what most of us were taught to value. It's not the intelligence of analysis and planning and control. It's the intelligence of intuition and trust and surrender. It's knowing when to hold on and when to let go, when to push forward and when to pause, when to speak up and when to listen more carefully. Most people never develop this intelligence because they're too busy trying to muscle their way through life. They treat every obstacle like something to overcome rather than something to learn from. They approach every closed door with a battering ram instead of stepping back to see if there's a key they're missing, or a different door entirely that's standing wide open. But when you start to see being redirected as a conversation rather than a confrontation, everything changes. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you start asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of demanding to know when things will get better, you start paying attention to how you can show up better. Instead of fighting against the current, you start learning how to swim with it. And here's what happens when you make that shift. Life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you're actively participating in. You stop being a victim of your circumstances and start becoming a student of your experience. You realize that every redirection, every unexpected turn, every moment of uncertainty has been preparing you for something you couldn't have prepared yourself for. Think about the people you admire most, the ones whose lives seem to have depth and meaning and authenticity. If you look closely at their stories, you'll find that none of them followed a straight path. All of them were redirected multiple times. All of them had to let go of versions of themselves that no longer fit. All of them had to trust a process they couldn't fully understand while they were living through it. But they did something that most people don't do. They stopped seeing redirection as failure and started seeing it as refinement. They stopped treating uncertainty as the enemy and started treating it as a teacher. They stopped waiting for life to make sense and started making sense of their life as they lived it. This is the secret that nobody talks about. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. You're not supposed to know exactly where you're heading at every moment. You're not supposed to feel certain all the time. Life is designed to keep you growing. And growth requires mystery, requires questions without immediate answers, requires faith in processes you can't fully see. The moment you stop fighting this reality and start embracing it, you discover something incredible. You're not stuck at all. You never were. You were just in between chapters, in the pause between one phase of your life ending and another beginning. You were in the sacred space where transformation happens, where old skins are shed and new ones grow, where who you thought you were dissolves, so who you actually are can emerge. So if you're feeling redirected right now, if doors are closing and paths are shifting and nothing looks the way you thought it would, breathe, trust, pay attention. This isn't punishment. This isn't evidence that you're doing something wrong. This is life loving you enough to not let you settle for anything less than what you're truly meant for. Your job isn't to fight the redirection. Your job is to follow it with curiosity, with openness, with trust that even when you can't see where you're going, you're being guided towards something that will make perfect sense when you get there. Because you're not stuck. You never were. You're just being loved enough to be redirected toward a life that actually fits the person you're becoming. And that person, the one emerging through all this uncertainty and change and redirection, that person is worth every uncomfortable moment it takes to become them.